Okay, so why is tropical astrology not astrology? The word astrology itself means the language of the stars. And in ancient times, as far back as we can go, true astrologers were outside under the night sky observing the movements of the planets and the luminaries. And that was their connection to astrology, was through nature itself. And the wisdom that came through was connected to nature. So in modern times, tropical astrology was created around 2,000 years ago. And really what that means is that mathematicians and popes came in and they took pure astrology, natural astrology, and they turned it into a man-made system. So instead of it being aligned with nature, a clear reflection of nature, it became distorted. And it became distorted in a number of different ways. But the most important way is that it stopped reflecting the natural sky. And because of this, if you're following tropical astrology and listening to tropical astrology, you're no longer connected to nature. It's purely intellectual. So there's no real power in it. There's no real wisdom in it. We know that the essence of wisdom is to act in harmony with nature. And our world has moved away from that in so many different ways. But one of the major ways that it's moved away is through tropical astrology, the creation of it. And what's really beautiful is that since our sun passed over the galactic center in 2012, this revelation has been coming forward, and many astrologers are discovering that what they thought was reflecting nature was in fact completely distorted from nature. And this is a revelation because I know for myself I never would have imagined. So for you, as someone who's interested in astrology or someone who's studying it, or astrology is a way of connecting with the cosmos. It's a way of exploring the mystery of who we are and the mystery of life. And if we're exploring that through a system that's man-made, we're not going to get the answers that we're looking for. It's not possible because the man-made system is dead. It's more like a religion, more like a concept. It's not a reality. So if you're someone who's really sincere and who wants the truth, then you're going to need to switch away from tropical and Vedic. Vedic is also not true to the sky. It's a little bit more true than tropical, but it's still fiction. And it's not to say that all these people practicing astrology are intentionally deceiving people. They're not. Most of them are not even aware that the system they're using is not in line with nature, that it doesn't reflect the visible sky. And so this is why it is a revelation that's going on, because many astrologers out there are starting to realize this and switching to using the visible sky, which has many different names, but essentially it's sidereal astrology. Sidereal meaning the natural sky. I'd also like to share that it was a very challenging realization at the same time, realizing that all of the beloved astrologers that I was listening to, like David Palmer and Kai Pacha and different people that I'd been listening to for years, and that I value as human beings and their own wisdom and their own generosity in sharing that wisdom, it was very sad for me to have to step away from all of that and let it go, because I knew now that what they were talking about was not actually what was happening in the sky, and so it lost its meaning for me. I couldn't take it seriously anymore, and it was a real loss for me. I went through a process of grief almost, and also just letting go of what I had thought to be true, thinking that I was a Scorpio my whole life, and then suddenly realizing that actually the sun was in Virgo when I was born. So I was born under the constellation of Virgo, not Scorpio. Even though it made much more sense to me, it felt much more accurate, it was still a loss. And we become identified with these signs. This is the reason why I had to let it go, because I realized it's not about switching from being identified as a Scorpio to being identified as a Virgo. It became much more about realizing that I'm not identified with any of these. That astrology is not an identification. It's a process that we go through in our evolution as a soul. It's a process of remembering who we are, that the universe put in place to support us and assist us. But we can't remember who we are through our chart if it's not an accurate chart to begin with. So it was a conundrum, but eventually, after about 6 months, I just let it go and accepted the truth of the fact that I want to be aligned with nature and I can't go back. And even though it's been, 7 or 8 years now since I switched over to True Sidereal, I still miss listening to all my favorite astrologers out there who are awesome human beings and share their wisdom in lots of ways through astrology, but the essence of what they're pointing to is not real. And so eventually I just had to accept it and let it go. But the beautiful process that it put me through was the realization that when you include the 13th sign in the zodiac, Ophiuchus, Ophiuchus is not any of the other 4 elements. It's ether. It's alone. It's unique in that sense. It's not part of the 12. It's almost observing the wheel. And so the fact that it's located at the galactic center, it's no mistake that it was removed, because the galactic center is where we connect with source, where we connect with cosmic consciousness. And back 2,000 years ago when they removed Ophiuchus, it's my understanding that it was to disconnect us from a direct connection with source so that we would become dependent on the religious organizations and society for our knowledge, for our understanding of who we are. But when you come back to True Sidereal and you include Ophiuchus, because it's there in the sky, it's on the path of the sun, it's not a fiction, it's a fact, suddenly it creates an experience for me anyway of that I'm not on this wheel that's going round and round through the zodiac signs. I'm the one observing this process of evolution, because we come in as a whole soul. We're not anything in particular. We're everything. We can experience any sign. And this is what happened for me when I switched from Scorpio to Virgo. I realized I can feel myself to be a Scorpio, I can feel myself to be a Virgo, I can feel myself to be a Leo. That's the creative power that we have. That's why acting is so natural for human beings, because we are in a way like a blank slate, a blank canvas, and we can with our own imagination, create whatever we want. This is the beauty, that the creativity that we have. But with astrology, what happened was I realized that I'm not any of these signs, and I'm all of them at the same time. So the number of ways in which tropical astrology is inaccurate are basically that it doesn't reflect the natural sky. That's number one. So that's in essence, that's what astrology is, the study of the natural sky, listening and tuning in to the mystery of nature. Secondly, it has changed the constellations. They're all different sizes in the sky because nature is not uniform. So they changed it where they're all 30 degrees, which is completely unnatural and therefore inaccurate. And also they removed the 13th sign of Ophiuchus, which is close to the galactic center, and made it a 12-sign system. So all of those things are distortions, steps away from nature. And I know for me, in my life, being here on this planet and attempting to make sense out of the chaos that I have experienced in society, I have used astrology as a way of tuning in to the energies that I'm experiencing and finding a deeper understanding through that. And a lot of that has been through retrospective awareness, where I will look back at different situations and experiences and then pull a chart, cast a chart to see what was going on at that time. And it always makes perfect sense. And in many ways, we can really only learn about astrology by looking back and seeing what was happening at the time when we were having certain experiences, where the planets were, how they were aspected, what zodiac signs they were in. And in order to do that, you need to have an accurate chart. So this is why I'm putting this video out, because I know there's people out there who are not interested. They want to just continue using tropical and Vedic, even though it's not in sync with nature and it's fiction, basically. And that's fair enough. You know, everybody has freedom to choose. But for the people out there who are unaware that these systems are fiction, I just wanted to put this video out to let you know that if you want to get back in sync with nature and you're really interested in the truth and you're interested in true astrology, then you're going to need to switch to True Sidereal Astrology or constellational astrology, whatever name you want to call it, but basically true astrology that reflects nature. And when you do that, you'll find it's a very interesting experience. I know for me, it's been a fascinating journey, just getting a whole new chart. And the new chart feels so much more accurate to who I am than my tropical chart. I could never relate to my tropical chart. It just didn't feel like me. And only you know who you are and what feels like you. So if you're going deeper into that, if you're a cosmic mystic, if you're a seeker of truth, if you're exploring the mystery of who you are and the mystery of life, I highly recommend that you look into True Sidereal Astrology. And there's a link down below in the description where you can look at your chart free. Athen Chimente's website, Mastering the Zodiac, has a free chart calculator, and you can take a look and see what your real true sky chart is and begin from an accurate map of the sky at your time of birth, and start really tuning into the messages in your chart that are specific for you, for who you really are. What I've seen with the creation of tropical astrology is that the powers that be, the monarchies, the governments, they want to control people. And I don't need to provide any proof for that. The proof is, self-evident. The truth is self-evident in that regard. And one way that they did that, and it was very clever, was to change astrology and to disconnect us from nature in a very insidious way, where they changed astrology so that you're no longer connecting with the living sky. It's a dead system, and there's no truth in a dead system. There's only truth in life, in the living nature. And it's my understanding that this was done to disempower people, because kings and queens and governments have been using astrology for thousands and thousands of years in order to make decisions and to understand how to use the energies of the planets in terms of timing and using the energies to their benefit, which is the beauty of astrology, is that when you tune into the cosmos and you come into harmony with it, and you start to learn and understand the different energies of the planets and the luminaries, it's a very creative process. You can work with it in your own life. And it's very helpful and very supportive, and it gives you the big picture of reality that's really needed here on Earth. To have this cosmic perspective is a very important part of the experience, because we're not just here on this planet alone. We're in this vast, eternal, mysterious universe. So my sense is that the system of tropical astrology was created as a strategy to disempower people and to keep them out of sync with nature, and to have that power only be accessible to the people who knew that tropical astrology was not real, that it was not true, that it was fiction. And they gave that to the public. And for the last 2,000 years, it's worked very well. But in present time, people are becoming more aware, more conscious, and in truth, our only responsibility as human beings, and when I say responsibility, I mean the ability to respond, not the societal version of that word. The ability to respond to life, to our own experience, is to make a choice to be more conscious, to be more present. We have choices, and if we're not conscious, we can just fall into things or be led by the collective societal impulses. But when we become conscious, we become individuals. And that's where our true ability to live in harmony with nature comes from, is from our choice to do that. Because we don't have to. Animals don't have a choice. They have to live in harmony with nature because that's what they are. But we're slightly different from them in the sense that we do have a choice. And that's why I'm putting this video out to anyone who might not understand how important it is, if you're practicing astrology and following astrology, to be aligned with the truth and not with the fiction. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And I will be coming out soon with a video on the current Pluto transit into Capricorn, which will be a 17-year transit. Very important for society as a whole. Pluto is the planet that affects the collective evolution along with the individual evolution. And the last time it was in Capricorn was in 1776, when the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were created in the United States. So we can see that this transit has a lot of transformational effects on society, being an earth sign, being in Capricorn, which rules governments and systems of control and monarchies. So it makes perfect sense to me that the whole astrology, hypnosis, and deception is coming to light at this time while Pluto's getting ready to go into a 17-year transit into Capricorn and bringing light to things that have been hidden and revealing them to us. And this is how life works. This is the mystery. We just really never know what we don't know. Thanks for joining.